Welcome back to the Berg Podcast. Thanks for joining us today. With me today is Dan.
Hey, everybody.
And Tracy.
Hi there.
Tracy's a special guest with us today. We're talking today about a little bit about celebration. So we've done this a number of times. Tracy, you can tell me how many years?
4 years.
4 years, thanks. And so for the fourth consecutive year, we have celebrated years of service. So our years of service celebration is for folks who have been with Berg Construction at least 5 years of full-time service. And it kind of started out of something that we've actually been talking about on the podcast, I think a fair amount over the last 6 to 12 months. It started out of recognizing the core, right? The folks who have been here, the folks who have seen it all or a lot of it, and have kind of made us stronger the entire way, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's who we say we want to be. It's who we actually want to be, right? It's to realize that we don't want to be onboarding, offboarding all the time. We don't want to, we're going to grow the company and to some certain point, and we will add people, but really we always wanted the people to stay, right? We wanted it to be their last interview sort of thing. And through some growing pains that hasn't happened. And one of the things that we realized was we had to not just focus on the squeaky wheel. We had to focus on the not squeaky wheel, right? Like take a look at the guys who just show up every day and go to work and make sure you engage them, talk to them, empower them, all those things. And one of the things we thought we needed to do a few years back was recognize them because most of them had been here a while. And so I think it's a fun event. It's spouses, it's you and your spouse. So we get to see a lot of the people we see every day, but also people we don't see every day. But it has, after 4 years, it has become sort of a thing, who you're going to see. Like I know I'm going to see certain people's wives or husbands, you know what I mean? And boyfriends at times now, fiancés, then husbands. But it's a fun event. It identifies everybody that's been there a little while. And it's interesting to see the years. As we start to do the process, I know with Tracy, that's always one of the things is we can identify which year you would have had to been hired in to now qualify. And then that makes you think about where we were as a company at that point.
Yeah, for sure. It's fun to see the list grow. I love celebrating the folks who've been with us 10, 11, 12 years, but watching kind of like the first timers list grow is really neat. Seeing the people who are passing that 5-year mark, because I think in a lot of ways, there's no certainty in anything we do in life besides death, trash, and taxes, right? We talk about those three things. Yep. Pretty much you can always assume will exist.
You can count on those.
But we look at kind of some of those milestones and we say, like, 5 years is kind of a big deal. You stick with something for 5 years, that's usually a tell in our world that it's working. Mutually, it's working for us, it's working for them. And that list for me is fun to see that one grow, because that is a sign, I think, that, as those years tick up and as those gaps between the folks who are surpassing the 5 years shortens, it's an indicator that the core is growing stronger. And that's worth celebrating. Yeah, for sure.
And they do a really nice job. Maybe Tracy can sort of break out sort of like what there's a lot of legwork that goes into it that nobody realizes. And you show up and you see this stuff, but you don't think about it from any phase of what actually goes on behind the scenes. And sort of, Trace, where does it start for you? Like when do you have to start planning?
We usually start planning in September and October of the previous year.
Okay.
So for the event we had in March, we started planning in September last year.
Okay.
And this year was special because Tracy was a 5-year.
I was a guest and not just someone there to
not
welcome you.
The party planner.
Correct.
She still was welcoming people.
Yes, of course. She can't help it.
She can't help herself with that. We talked
which I love, which I appreciate.
Right. But we talked about it. I said to her, like, this is about you as well. I don't want you to, just continue to do what you do every day. But it was neat to see Tracy finally involved. Robbie, is his second year he was there, or is this his first? It was his second year. Robbie's another one, that it was neat to see Robbie. I mean, to go from, Robbie mowed the grass when he was in high school to now he's he's a guy that's been around 6 years.
Yeah.
Seen a lot of things. It is neat to see these guys. And it's also neat as we've had some people move around the company in terms of what their, not just their job title, the responsibilities, but who they're working with. and to see the guys still like come together, they almost go back into the group that they spent the most time with. A lot of times you actually notice it,
Mm-hmm.
But it was a lot of fun. I enjoy it. I really enjoy getting to see people outside of the normal environment. Like, it's one thing to go to a job site and I get to visit the guys and it's what they do every day, but to get to see them as people outside of that, with their spouse it's enjoyable.
Yeah, for sure. I think, Trace, you want to talk about a little bit about like the how we arrived at sort of what we do here, right? I mean, so the idea being like we tried several years ago to sort of figure out like ways to celebrate as a group. And we were really struggling for a long time to figure out our business is tough.
Correct.
Right? It's hard to get people together. Our folks are scattered. Our folks are at a variety of sites. Their sites may or may not be anywhere near their homes. So to get people to a site, to home, let them go clean up, get them back out to an event. That's super challenging. But this one came out of the idea, I think, that Ford's like super loyal to, as long as he feels like you still buy into what's happening, that you still care, right? And so I think this one started because of that. So when you kind of look back at 4 years ago when we started doing this, we were coming through COVID, and we, like a lot of companies, have faced a lot of turmoil in COVID, the shutdown, the like what happens to our folks, how do we take care of them? And I think coming out of COVID, this was one of the ways that Ford said, like, we kind of survived some things as a group, and it's been primarily because of these folks.
Correct. So the first year we did the dinner was 2022. So that would have been celebrating the class of 2021. So that was the first year. So anyone that hit that 5-year milestone was invited, but some folks had been here longer. So they were here longer. So they had other milestones that they, in some cases, surpassed. So we just talked about what it could be. And we thought maybe the best thing to do would be a dinner after hours. We landed on a location, which is local. And then we decided what would be the best time between Dan and operations to get everyone out of work early enough, get them home to their families or to get their spouse or significant other, maybe get the kids off the school bus, get the babysitter, get them to and from baseball practice or whatever that looked like. And then when is the best time of year to do it? And we landed on March, and typically the end of March is where we thought we would be safe to be out of snow, not having any evening or long days. And fortunately for us, with the exception of, I think, the 2024 year, which we may have done in the first week in April, which then we were really into baseball season and had a little more organization for some of our team to do. So the end of March is typically where we do it now, and then we really get the most participation, except for our lacrosse coach.
Yes, that's fair.
Brian hasn't made one, although he does a lot of things behind the scenes.
Yeah, that's fair. I have not celebrated.
We haven't been able to celebrate you at the event.
Yeah. Trace, do you remember how many folks were at the event the first year? And that's a big ask. I didn't ask you to prep for this kind of question.
I don't. But I would guess probably 25.
You see, I was going to say, are you talking people or employees?
I was thinking employees, but that's fair. So it might have been
this year we had 20 employees.
20 employees. Okay. Which is cool.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Cause I was thinking it might've been 8 or 10 employees the first time. That's in my head.
And right. Because like you had that, you had the big class of 2015. That's a big group.
Yeah.
And then the class of 2018 was a large group as well. So
yes, and we could talk about that.
last year we jumped.
You wouldn't think of it in a company that we would use that sort of language like a school, right? Like you're the class of, Mars is going to be the class of 2030. And
Unbelievable.
and you wouldn't think about it, but we do think of it that way. And I think it speaks to our hiring. I think it speaks to our job makeup at that point. And it's not one thing that makes for a solid class. But I think the main thing we've noticed is when we are intentional about how we hire, right? You're always hiring out of need to some degree. Like we don't hire people we don't need, right? But when you're in a bad way and you're like, I need 10 people, you don't do the best job hiring for culture. And so you find people who can do the job, but, right, there's a but. And the but can be a lot of different things. And it can just be not the right fit for them. We're not the right fit for them. They're not the right fit for us. It can be a lot of different things. But when we are intentional about it, we do a much better job of hiring. And that creates this odd class setup where there's certain groups of guys that came in together that really fit our culture and are able to make it through. And so it's odd that way as you watch, and the people who attend sort of look at it next year when you're there, and all of a sudden you'll realize, like, wait a minute, these guys all got hired in this time. These people got hired at this time, and I'm hopeful that we're there again, quite honestly. Like I feel like our intentionality over the last year of how we were going to hire and what we were going to look for and how much we would drive culture being the decision maker on whether we would bring people on, combined with refocusing ourselves to say, this is the work we do and trying to get back to that, I think creates a scenario where someday, 5-10 years from now, we could say that, people we hired in 25, that class of 25, that was a good class for us, and a lot of them are sitting in that space.
Yeah. Like you're obviously heavily involved in the hiring process, right? Tracy sees pretty much every face that comes through the door. And when you're going through like an event like this, I think, is it hard not to kind of like also have in the back of your head the ones that got away? Like,
oh yeah.
Because you look at those groups of people and there's a lot to be celebrated.
Yep.
And there were certainly some along the way who were in those classes. Yep. And for one reason or another, it just didn't work. And not that it won't ever work again, because we talk about the boomerang employee. But
yeah. So three things, four things come to mind that I knew sitting in that meeting, right? Yeah. So, and I always strive to be transparent because I think it's the best way you can be, right? Yeah. So first off, I had a terrible day that day. Like the day of that lunch or dinner was about the worst day I've had in, it's been a while. It was a bad day. And we lost on that day one of our employees who had been with us a long time. And I hope that he succeeds and finds what he's looking for in the place that he went. And I sat down with him the next day after the thing and after the dinner, and I said, like, listen, I'm worried for you. I'm worried for you because I think you're making a decision based on some things that I don't 100% can believe can math out. And if they don't, you're going to be unhappy potentially. And I'm worried for you as a person. I've another person I've known since they were young. And so that was the first thing that, I had that sort of a day and then went to this celebration knowing what had just happened. Mm-hmm. But I get there. And so the first one I saw was Paulie, right? Yeah. Not first person I see, but first person that comes to mind because Paulie was with us for a long period. And then Paulie left and then Paulie came back and he's been with us so long that the second time he's qualified, right. Because if you leave, you lose seniority. And then I saw Christian there, who's not quite there, right? Christian's not quite there on his second turn, right. But another boomerang employee that left and then came back.
Yeah.
And the one that I really thought about sitting there was AJ Gardner. Mm. So when you talk about like somebody that got away, and AJ, I genuinely believe is like completely my fault. Like AJ, I don't think leaves if I do a better job as a leader of giving him a path. Yeah. And Tracy and I spend a lot of time talking about generationally that the younger kids, you have to provide them a path, and it has to be a supported path. Like just saying like, hey, you're going to be a foreman in 3 years. That's not a path. That's some end destination with no plan to get there. And AJ was so good of an employee and did everything you wanted him to do that he just naturally progressed, and I put way more on him than I should have without ever really talking to him about it. So sitting in that meeting, having had a rough day dealing with it, it really stuck with me because I was like, okay, what mistakes did I make or not make with people that ends up with them at this dinner? Because every time when Tracy, whether I am actually involved in the onboarding process or Tracy just brings them to me and says, hey, Dan, I'd like you to meet so-and-so. I always take the same approach, which is I really want this to be people's last interview. I want them to work here for the rest of the time they work. And so when we sit at that, part of what I look at is the mistakes that I've made that resulted in people not being here, because I think it's not always our fault, right?
Sure. No.
But I take it that way personally. You know what I mean? Like I should have, every person that's left, there's something I could have done that could have potentially altered that. And that's true. Now, some of them, there's something I could have done, but it wouldn't have changed them as people just not being a good culture fit for us. But it is something I think about sitting there is, and I also trying to identify what's the difference, right? Like what makes one of our guys that's been here, you know what I mean? A while, a Joe Stauffer, Levi, any of those guys, what makes Justin Boyer, what makes them have gone through the rough patches and been okay? Is it them? Is it us? Did we support them different? And try and apply that to the future. So
right.
I think for me, it's an interesting window, and that's sort of why I enjoy it, because to some degree, it shows our success, right? We're sitting there and you're seeing the success, because ultimately our job, our purpose is to create work, right? Is to create work for people that can provide for them and their families. So if you're sitting there, we've succeeded. And so why did we succeed? But then it also makes me look at why I've failed.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, in a weird twist, I don't think I would have been that analytical about it. Like, which is different for
you and I.
Yeah,
but it's the most people oriented piece of what I do. You know what I mean? Like,
sure, that's fair.
I love operations because it's really simple. You know what I mean? Like I have a track hoe. It can load a certain amount of dirt in that truck and move. This is all just math. Really simple.
Yeah.
But when you make me sit in the room with the 20 something people who have been with us for some of them for a decade, it makes me think about not the operation. It makes me think about everything that actually makes the operation happen.
Yeah.
And so I think I turn more like introspective or analytical about it.
Trace, there's a ton of work that goes into the event. You said, you prep it for 5 or 6 months, generally speaking. Do you have like a favorite thing? Do you have like the thing that you like the most
of the event itself?
Yeah.
Probably so I have always, in planning events, always loved to try to under promise and over deliver. So my favorite thing is trying to figure out, like me and the fund committee, try to figure out what can we do that would be next level that will try to up it from the previous year, and what can we do that is going to impact the team and have them say, I'm really glad I came. This piece was a lot of fun. So it's just, and then the look on their face when they walk through the door.
Yeah.
It's kind of like my second wedding, so to speak, when they come in, like, the aha, this looks beautiful. And then, planning to make sure, because it's a sit down dinner, it's a plated meal. It's not like it's a buffet. Hors d'oeuvres, handcrafted, hand selected desserts.
Drinks.
It's not like we're taking them to Shady Maple.
Yeah. No, that's for sure.
So
I think for me, one of the most rewarding parts is honestly seeing Ford interact with everybody. Because he's as we've grown, Ford's interaction is less direct at times, but it's also like, you shouldn't define something by itself, but like Ford is just so Ford. He's exactly what he is. He just wants to show up and work. Like if he comes to your job site, he's not coming there. If he's coming to work, he's coming there to work. Like he doesn't want any special treatment. He doesn't, just tell him what to do and he'll go do it. And if he visits a job site to visit the job site, then he just wants to walk around the job site and, what are you doing? What's going on? It's just the same thing that made him want to do it in the beginning. But when you put him in that environment as the center focal point of talking to each of the people, it's rewarding to me because he's ultimately the one that has done that. His commitment for the last 20 years resulted in a scenario where now he's had people that's worked for him for more than a decade, building a company that's been fairly consistent. Like that's the other odd part is you talk about the first year we had it was 22.
Yeah.
So 22 we were celebrating people from 21, so 16 on. But as you said, there was people from 2012 on. So you were. I remember that from the first meeting that we were as a group we talked about it, and we were trying to figure out what do we do for Joe Griffin. Right?
Sure.
Like how do we call out Joe Griffin who, when he first worked here, you could. Wear shorts and a tank top, and you know what I mean. There was so many. It was so different. There was 8 or 10 people, whatever it was. Everybody was either related to Ford or knew him since he was a kid. Versus what the company has become. And I remember in that first meeting, that was one of the things: is what do we do that can sort of acknowledge where we've come and where we've gotten, and as the group gets bigger, their experience changes. And so I also think I think it can be beneficial for us long term when we do that sort of thing. When you get to see guys who have been here more than 8 years start to talk to guys who have been here only 5 years, because very different things happen post-COVID and pre-COVID. So the 3 years before COVID are very different than the 3 years after COVID. So I think that's really important for us in building culture. It's sort of bridging that piece to say like, hey, this is when we came up with the idea of the logo, and this is when we came up with the core values and the mission and all that things. This is where it all came from, and don't lose that. Remember that, and then work back to it to have everybody know it, just like when we did it the first time. So for me, I also look at that piece of it. Yeah,
for sure. Chase, have there ever been out of the 4 years we've had so far a moment where you had to like scramble at the last minute because something was going wrong?
Last year, I think when I had miscounted the number of guests that were coming and thought that I had missed a gift for someone. And literally we were scrambling like while we were setting everything up and guests were coming through the door.
Sending people to the store.
But it turned out we had everything we needed. It just had gotten misplaced. But like my heart was in my stomach.
I can imagine with how much you love the details that one would have had you spinning a little bit. Right,
because I'm like, how could I have missed this? And it turned out everything we needed was there, and we could have made it all work, and no one would have been any of the wiser. But I love though the fact that everyone enjoys coming just as much as I love hosting them, or we love hosting them. But them and their guests, and like Dan was saying about the group, because some of them may start out in one division and move to the other, so they don't necessarily see each other or have that opportunity to interact with their teammates, except at maybe the Christmas luncheon or training day or something like that. So I really enjoy like the smiles and literally like the reacquaintances that are happening that night.
Well, you know what else I think is interesting is and Tracy and I laugh about it often, is it's juxtaposition is what it is. The idea of matching up who we are on a day-to-day basis, right? Like we're literally a lunchbox group. Like that's who we are. You know what I mean? Even like internally in the office, like we all bring lunchbox to work. You know what I mean? It's like that's who we are. And when Ford and Tracy and Tamara and everybody got together and decided like how they wanted this to go and started to present it and come out with the idea, and then you and I got involved, and Tracy or Kelsey got involved, that what the meal is, right? Like it's not only not a buffet, you know what I mean? It's not like you're going and you're getting meatloaf, you know what I mean? Like it's not a lunchbox meal, you know what I mean? Like it's and every year I laugh about it because I'm kind of a plain guy when it comes to eating. I like good food, but I like certain things in good food. Right. And when Tamara and Ford craft this menu every year, I'm like, oh man, they're killing me here. Like I'm gonna have to deconstruct this thing to get back to the base that I want. And this year, one of the funny things was Kelsey had ordered the pasta.
Yeah.
And her pasta comes out, and it's got like 3 giant chicken tenders on it because Kels loves chicken tenders. And Kels was looking around as if everyone would have gotten chicken tenders, which there's no way that meal did not have chicken tenders on it.
Right. Yeah.
And likewise, I don't like crab. I don't like seafood. Even though I go to the beach a lot, we're not getting into it. I don't like seafood. So I had said to Tori, I think I told Tori, I was like, hey, just either tell them I don't want the crab on that steak. Like, you can put it on the side because Aaron will definitely eat it, but I don't want it on the. And I walked in and Dan was like, "Can you please explain to me why you don't want the crab?" And I was like, "I don't eat seafood." And he was like, "What? That doesn't even make any sense." And I was like, "Yeah, I don't want it on the steak. I didn't want it anywhere near it." But the juxtaposition of that to see, like JD was sitting next to me, and JD was like, "This is a good steak. Like, come back here." Like, just because we wouldn't go there and order. We wouldn't do that regularly. So it's really neat that the company is able to provide for the guys in that way. For the whole team to be able to say, like, you're going to have a meal and you can have things you may not normally order when you go out with your kids.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. It's a cool event, and it's become a really fun tradition.
Someday Brian's going to
I will attend someday.
One day.
Yeah,
I warned him next year he might be attending. He might be like zip tied to a chair. I'll just go, like, Brian, sit down here real quick.
Yeah,
We'll have a meeting.
we could probably, depending on his schedule, I'm sure we can probably find a substitute or a stand-in coach for that night.
How about Clemis? Can we get Clemis?
We know a guy.
I know a couple.
Clemis, I don't know. Clemis, he's a busy guy.
He's creeping up there too. Yeah, Clemis is creeping up there.
Yeah, he's a busy guy. So, yeah.
So, I think it's a great event. I think it fits right in with what we do, with when we want to have the outings a couple times a year. And you sort of see us do it with different things because it's important. I mean, you spend a lot of time with these people every single day. And I think there's real value in your family getting to see the people you work with and know them as just more than a name.
Yeah.
So that's
for sure.
That's probably the most rewarding of the pieces is knowing that. The next day, I think Angie sent me a clip or something, and she was like, "Would Aaron eat this?" Because Aaron eats like a lot of seafood, and it was some like massive seafood tower, and it's just funny. Like it says something about the company that one of my teammates' wives sends me a message and said, "Hey, show your wife a picture of this," and it was a message to me because she has Aaron's number. Like, she could have texted Aaron, but she was like sending it to me to like spark a conversation. And so I think it really shines on who we are. And it's, one of the things I hope we do for as long as we keep this going. That's how long I want to do this. So.
Yeah. Yeah. That's probably a good place to wrap it up. So it's a fun event. It's something that I feel like people really have started to look forward to every year. And I can't wait to see what Tracy does next year to level up. So,
thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us today, folks. We hope you got something from this episode, and we hope you come back.